Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to our coffee times to discuss horror, and today I bring you some of the new book releases for the month of May.
It's coffee time!
So the month of May is packed with horrors and thrillers, so I do have a list of 31 different books. I guess grab a cup of coffee or your beverage of choice and let's get to it. First we have Europeia Halls 3 by Alan Shivers, and this is the third installment in this slasher adult trilogy by the Belgian author, and I'm really excited. So far I have only read the first one, but if you like slashers, I feel like this one is one that you have to check out, especially if you like that vibe of kind of 90s slashers. Europeia Halls is a very prestigious school in Europe and only a selected few can go there. So we follow a group of girls that move into the school and start living there, but things obviously don't go quite well. Our 6 teenage girls are being chased and threatened by a serial killer that is currently on the loose, and we have to see who will survive. This one is told from multiple POVs, and you know, it's one of those books where you have a group of girls and you wonder, is there just gonna be one final girl? How many will survive? And who is the one behind the killings? Next we have the Ghostlands of Natalie, Glasgow by Hailey Piper, and this is an adult horror novella. It features 7 interconnected stories, so it is kind of like a short story compilation, but they are all related, and it is in a novella format. Undead Folk by Catherine Silva, and this is adult horror. We follow a woman in post-apocalyptic United States, and she's following the railroads and she is trying to find a place to settle, but she's also looking for revenge. And she also travels with an undead fox. Undead Folk is a short harrowing tale of sacrifice, loss, and damnation. Next we have Whispers of Apple Blossoms, and this is by Brett Mitchell Kent. This is a horror mystery thriller. We follow a lonely widow, and she is mourning the loss of her daughter as well as her husband. And one day she starts to receive messages that seem to come from her dead husband. But also he communicates to her through a houseplant, which sounds kind of unique. They say this is a romantic but also really kind of dark exploration of regrets, for example, and of course exploration of loss. It's very sinister, and I'm guessing it has a little bit of gothic vibes to it, but it does sound quite unique. The Harvest by Diego Rauda, and this is adult horror. So Daniel is used to his nightmares, and his nightmares are like very descriptive, very like disturbing. Like the other night he dreamt of a skinless head decapitated under his bed, and the problem is that, you know, he knows those are nightmares, but now the nightmares are kind of blending with reality, and now he is obsessed with a creature, a monster that is supposed to live in his closet and is coming to get him. The next one I am extremely excited about, and that is Rotten Tommy by David Sodergren, and this is adult horror, and his books tend to be quite gory and disturbing, just putting it out there, and that is why he's one of my favorites. I think he's such an underrated author. I believe he still self-publishes, and this is one of my most anticipated releases definitely for the year and the month of May. Sadly, for some reason I cannot pre-order it through Amazon. It's not available yet, so I hope that they will, because I need this for my collection. Plus that cover is absolutely fantastic. Becky's mother disappeared 40 years ago, so she has kind of given up all hope to find her, but then she makes a discovery. She finds something that might actually let her know what happened to her mother. She finds a bunch of unmarked videotapes that were hidden inside the walls of her childhood home. Yes, please. I am here to see Becky watch those VHS tapes and get us into something really disturbing and messed up. I'm so excited for this one, so somebody needs to tell me where to get this from, because I've checked several like bookstore things here in the Netherlands and I cannot find it, so I need this. Mother Knows Best, Tales of Homemade Horror, and this is a short horror story compilation. It includes short stories but also poems. It is all obviously horror, and I did read this one earlier this year and I really enjoyed it. They are all kind of connected to the female experience and what it feels like, you know, to have that relationship with your mother. I wouldn't say this is a book only for female readers or people that have had a complicated relationship with their mom or anything like that, but it explores in depth those relationships and the themes, and it spins it kind of into horror, and I really enjoyed it. The Zword by Lindsay King Miller, and this is adult queer horror. They say this book is basically queer Zombieland, so I'm sold. I think Zombieland is one of those comedies that really works for me. I think part of it is Woody Harrelson. I really like him, and that movie really worked for me. So if you're giving me now a queer version of that, I'll take it. We follow Wendy. Wendy is bisexual and she is struggling after her last breakup, and then on top of that, the apocalypse kind of breaks loose and people start to act kind of aggressive and they start to change, and I'm guessing they're turning into zombies because that's what this book's about. But probably there's also a lot of found family and friendship and love also included in the mix. When the Devil by Emma E. Murray, and this is sapphic horror, and this is very short. It's only 66 pages, but I wanted to include it here because it sounds really good and I really like the cover. The synopsis is also not very long, so there is not much that we know about it, which makes sense because it's only 66 pages. They don't want to butcher the whole story. So let me read to you what the book is about. In When the Devil, Libby finds salvation in a new sapphic partner, homebrewed poison, and facing a god she no longer believes in. Perfect Little Monsters by Cindy R.X. Hay, and this is a YA mystery thriller. Someone has murdered the queen bee of this high school, and now all of her best friends are actually the suspects because every single one of her besties had a motive to kill her. So Ella Moore was basically the most popular girl at school, but she was also kind of the most hated, and she was murdered at her own party. Savage. I know this has been done many times before, but there's still something really cool about having a bunch of friends being interrogated, a bunch of friends that possibly have a motive to kill their bestie, and I still enjoy those mystery thrillers. The Family Experiment by Joan Mars, and this is an adult mystery thriller. Now, on Amazon here, it says it's gonna come out in May, but Goodreads still says it's gonna come out in July. So I don't know exactly which one is gonna be the correct one, but just in case it comes out in May, because apparently here, at least in the Netherlands, you can order it to get it in May, according to Amazon. So nevertheless, this is the new Joan Mars book. We are in an economic crisis and we are just overpopulated, and families can no longer afford to keep having children because they cannot even support themselves. But for those that are really desperate to experience parenthood, there is something that they can pay for, which is a virtual experience in which you can kind of create your own child and get into that virtual reality and raise your kid and stuff. Sounds interesting. I think the author really likes to tiptoe into kind of the advances of technology and how that could potentially change human relationships, and I feel like this one is going to be another one of those. A Curse in Kyoto by S.J. Cullen, and this is YA mystery thriller. We are in the British School of Kyoto, and they decide to host a museum exhibition that it is rumored to be haunted, cursed, but they still do it. And after that, people talk about the ghost of a geisha roaming the halls, weird symbols being painted everywhere in the school, and we follow a couple of students that will have to kind of work together, even though they couldn't be more different from each other, in order to solve what's happening in the school before a lot of more people get murdered. Your Time is Up by Sarah Naughton, and this is a YA thriller. This is a real-time thriller that is set throughout the course of A-level exams, and it follows different friends. One of them has a secret They might have seen something they shouldn't have seen. One of them never made it to the exam. So I'm really intrigued because there is not too much that the plot tells us about what's gonna go down in this book. They are keeping it quite mysterious, which I enjoy. And this is the author that wrote You Better Watch Out, which was I think the December YA book club book, and I read it and I enjoyed it. It wasn't a favorite, but I did enjoy it and it had many good elements. So I'm excited to read something else by the author. She Left by Stacey Gray is an adult thriller. We follow Amy. 20 years ago, her life changed. She survived. She was at a party with a couple of friends and she didn't feel like she wanted to be there anymore. She decided to leave the party early. She left, and the next morning she realized that the other friends that were at the party, they were all murdered. There was a massacre. She was supposed to be there, but she left early and she became the only survivor. What she couldn't escape was the media circus and the guilt. 20 years later, there is someone that apparently knows a lot more about that night, and Amy is now in danger. My Darling Dreadful Thing by Joanna van Veen. This is adult horror gothic, and I actually have this on my Kindle because I got an early copy from NetGalley. So this is going to be on my May TBR pile. We are in a world where the dead can wake and walk among us, so it is hard in a world like that to know what's true and what's not. Ruth has a companion, and that is a spirit of a dead girl called Ruth. Ruth's mom's job is basically to do seances for people, which is probably a very profitable business in this type of world. And everything is going well until her mom asks her to come to one of the seances, and something changes. Something happens and Ruth is blamed for it, but she says that it was actually a spirit, so I don't know where this is gonna go, but it sounds like an intriguing premise. The House That Horror Built by Christina Henry. This is adult horror and another one of my most anticipated releases for 2024. I am so bummed that I missed a exclusive Waterstones release of this book. It was a paperback and it came signed and the cover is amazing. I don't like this cover, which is the regular hardback cover, I think. So I'm really sad that I missed the Waterstones one because I would have loved to get that. I would have given them all my monies for that one. So I don't know, I'll keep my eyes peeled to see if I can find the other edition. But this is one that I really want to read. We follow a single mother that works at the horror mansion of a reclusive, like, horror director. Like, I'm already in there, like, I need this book. And of course she will discover terrifying secrets. Our main character loves horror movies, so of course it was a no-brainer for her that she was gonna take this job working at the house of this horror director. But I guess she found out things she didn't want, you know? Sometimes you should never meet your idols. The Red Grove by Tessa Fontaine, and this is adult horror. I also feel like there's this trope coming about mothers disappearing, because this is about a mother that disappears and the daughter trying to find her, uncovering secrets. I feel like this is a trope that has been slowly coming because I keep seeing more and more books about that. We are in Red Grove and this is a very special place. They say that it is protected by a spell, and basically all the women that live here in this community, they cannot be harmed. But then of course our main character's mother disappears. As her daughter starts to investigate, she's going to discover that this place is not exactly what she thought it was. The Witches of Belinas by J. Nicole Jones. This is adult gothic horror and literary fiction. This is a dreamy California gothic tale about a woman that decides to move to this weird town because she feels like that's how she's gonna save her marriage. So she moves to the mysterious town of Belinas in order to do that, and then she thinks she has landed in a cult. So this reclusive community has its own rules about what to eat, what to wear, what to do. So there's like a cult vibe to it, and that is really intriguing to me. I don't always read too much gothic horror, but when you throw cults into the mix, call me intrigued. Gosa by John Durgan. This is adult horror with witches, and this cover, fantastic. Also, cosa spelled with a C in Spanish means thing, so I wonder if that's what it's about. Cosa lives in a secluded mansion. She lives there with her mother, and I guess she's kind of like completely cut off from the real world and she only believes what her mother tells her. Of course, as she gets older, she starts to question what is behind the walls of that mansion, what is the real world like. But her mother is going to make sure that she stays put. The next one is Together in a Broken World by Paul Michael Winters. Now, this is YA queer romance, but it is set on a apocalyptic world, so I had to put it in here because I love this kind of new wave of books that have queer characters in post-apocalyptic, apocalyptic scenarios. I'm loving it, especially, you guys know I love All That's Left in the World, which, spoiler alert, is getting a sequel this month. We follow 17-year-olds that kind of find themselves in this new world order. There was a virus that spread and people started changing. They became kind of mindless animals, and if they scratch someone, then they turn them. So you have to be really careful because a scratch, you know, is something easy that you can get. So we follow these two boys and their love story might save them, but the secrets that they keep might be the ones that will kill them. It sounds a little bit similar to All That's Left in the World, so I'm really excited to get into this one. The Lamplighter by Crystal J. Bell, and this is YA horror fantasy. I have this one as well on my Kindle, so I think I'm also going to try to read this one in the month of May. This one is set in the 19th century, which is also one of the reasons why I wanted to read it, because I don't read so many period pieces. So this one is set in the 19th century, and there is something in the mist, in the dark, that kills people. So people try to stay where there's light, and there are different like lampposts with lamplighters, and our main character has taken over the job from her dad. So Temperance assumes this job and she is now a lamplighter, but people are a little bit kind of worried about it because this is the first time that a woman has taken that position. One day she warns the people about a possible monster, but they don't really pay much attention to her, so I'm guessing they're gonna have to eat up their own words. I'm guessing that's what's gonna happen. You Like It Darker by Stephen King. This one I did pre-order from Waterstones because they had an exclusive edition and it was not very expensive, so I got that one. And not much explanation here. This is a new Stephen King book. This time he comes back with short horror stories, and in this volume we get 12 new short stories by Stephen King. We Mostly Come Out at Night, and this is another short horror story compilation. In this case is an anthology of 15 queer tales of monsters, angels, and other creatures. It is also YA horror, which it is fantastic. I think YA horror should get more short horror story compilation. Last year we got A Taste of Darkness, and this year we get this one that includes all queer stories, which I think it's amazing. And we should get more of these because I have the feeling that there are so many adult horror anthologies, but there are not enough middle grade and YA ones. And this is a great way to introduce younger readers to very different type of authors, and they might fall in love with their writing style or their story, and they might go ahead and pick up their books. One Perfect Couple by Ruth Ware, and this is an adult mystery thriller. I think we all know Ruth Ware, so we all know what we can kind of expect. This is another murder mystery thriller. So Lila is not having a great time. She feels like her contract is not about to be renewed. She's also having trouble with her boyfriend, so not the best times. But the boyfriend decides to join a new TV show called The Perfect Couple, so they decide to go through this experience together. They arrive to a deserted island, and there are 4 other couples there, and they kind of have to fight to get the prize because only one couple is going to be the one that wins the TV show, that wins the money. After the first challenges, the first day, there is a huge storm that completely cuts them off from civilization. They don't have phones, they don't have any way to call for help. Obviously now it's going to turn into a game of survival, and we shall see if everybody makes it out alive. You Invited It In by Sarah Jules, and this is adult horror. We follow Felix. He is a very normal, typical guy, except for the fact that he can see ghosts. We also follow Lilith, who is a fraudulent psychic that promotes her powers through social media. So Felix comes across one of Lilith's kind of like advertisements, and he decides to call and pretend that he wants to talk to one of his deceased family members because he wants to expose her as a fraud. The problem is together they kind of end up coming across some sort of like really bad, dangerous, evil spirit. So now they're in a pickle. The Only Light Left Burning by Eric J. Brown. No explanation needed. This is YA, queer, apocalyptic story, dystopian stuff. And this is a very anticipated sequel of All That's Left in the World. I absolutely love that book. I want to reread it and annotate it. That's how much I loved it the first time around. And I got to meet Eric last year at Yalk, and he is amazing, fantastic. And I'm so excited for the sequel. But again, he manages to lift me up and make me have all those amazing warm fuzzy feelings. But at the same time, he's absolutely destroying and ripping my soul apart. So thank you for that, Eric. But I really like the combination of, you know, this dystopian world with a lot of fear, a lot of danger, a lot of horror, and then we have this beautiful blooming love story between two teenagers. So in the first book, humanity has been almost completely wiped out due to a virus that broke, and there are not many people left in the world. And the people that are left, they're all not good people. We all know this happened. So basically this book is kind of like Walking Dead, but for queer teens, which we love. And so in this post-apocalyptic world full of dangers, we find two boys that end up meeting each other by chance and end up traveling together, facing all the dangers of this world and also facing their own feelings. Needless to say, I highly recommend this book. So if you have not read All That's Left in the World, that's going to be your homework for 2024. Now let's talk about another anticipated book. I feel like May has so many anticipated books for me, and that is Evocation. I hope that was correct. And it is by S.T. Gibson. It is book 1 in the Summoner's Circle series. And this is fantasy romance queer book. Which, fantasy romance, who is she? Why would I read this? Because it's S.T. Gibson. So after reading An Education in Malice, which has become a new absolute favorite, I have sworn to read everything the author puts out. So even though this is not horror, I'm gonna read it. I already pre-ordered it, so I'm really excited. Also, the cover looks fantastic and I just cannot wait. As a teen, David was a psychic prodigy, and now after his father's death, things are not going quite that great. He's approaching his 30th birthday and he's quite content with his life at the moment. And he works as a medium. But power always comes with a price, so the devil has come to collect his debt. David's days are numbered and death is gonna come soon knocking on his door. So even though this book is not horror, it is pitched as fantasy queer romance. But because we're talking here about the devil and the devil coming to collect his debt, I'm hoping there's gonna be some darkness here, which I would expect from the author. So I don't know how dark it's gonna get, if it's gonna get really creepy or not, but I am seated for this book. If Something Happens to Me by Alex Finlay, and this is an adult mystery thriller. So we follow Ryan, and 5 years ago, Ryan had to experience how his girlfriend was kidnapped. They were in the car, in Ali's car, the girlfriend, and somebody opened the door, knocked him in the head, and then took the car and left with his girlfriend in it. So obviously there is no trace of the car. They have not found the car, they have not found the girlfriend, so the police assumes it has to be Ryan because he's the boyfriend, you know, natural suspect. But there is no proof, so he cannot get charged, and it's 5 years later, and now Ali's car has been found, together with a very mysterious note. Flawless Girls by Anne-Marie McLemore, and this is a YA queer horror thriller. We follow the Soler sisters, and there is a lot of pressure on them to be polite, to behave a certain way. So the grandmother sends the girls to a very prestigious school where they're supposed to shape them into being obedient, into being polite. So one of them is more of a rebel, but after she comes back from the school, she seems changed, she seems polite, but the very same night that she comes back home, she vanishes. The grandmother and also her sisters are trying to find her, but they might come across something that they didn't expect, some secrets from this school. We have Feral by Brian Alaspa, and this is a horror novella. We follow a family in the 1800s, and all of the kind of like tries to build a business that they have failed. So the family's only hope right now is to make the long travel to California, and they're looking for a better future. It's going to be a really long trip for them, and also the youngest son is having nightmares about things are gonna happen to them during this trip. And those nightmares seem to be turning to reality because the whole troop that is doing this trip, the horses, everybody gets trapped in the mountains without any way of getting out of there. Then snow falls and kind of buries them, but there's something else that's gonna come. It's some sort of creature with sharp teeth that comes for their children. From the belly, Emmet Nahil, and I wanted to mention this one because it sounds absolutely bonkers. This is adult queer horror, and it is a very interesting relationship here. We follow a ship that has made a really strange catch. They have captured a whale that still has a living man inside of the stomach. One of the sailors is tasked with keeping this man alive, but as they try to do so, weird things start to happen to the ship and to the crew. It sounds really intriguing because imagine the agony of having a full man alive living in the stomach lining of a whale. Bonkers. Alright guys, so these are the 31 book releases I wanted to talk to you about. The vast majority of them are obviously horrors and thrillers. I really hope that you enjoyed this video and that you found a couple of books that sound interesting to you. If I did miss any of your most anticipated books for May, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys as always so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in our next coffee time. Bye!